Yes, it is. All right. Welcome to the Income and Impact Masterclass, my beautiful beings. Thank you so much for being here on a Friday. I'm super stoked to be with you guys. For those of you that don't know, I'm Bonnie Young. I am a retired transformational therapist, as well as a business and life coach. And you guys are here. I know you're here because you know that there's a gap between your current reality and your highest self is kind of what I will say as far as that goes. And you're also aware that as long as this gap exists, that you're losing out not just on money, but on something that I like to call legacy. And this is something that I'm super familiar with, and I'm going to do my best to share as much as I can with you in this time about that, and as many of the tools that I've received from being a therapist and a coach, and also a experience, as I'm hitting my microphone, an experience that you guys probably don't know about that really transformed my life. So I'm going to jump right in, and the steps that I used, share with you right off the bat, the steps that I used to double my income and my impact in 6 months. And you can write these down if you want. You're welcome to take any and all of this away for your own use. In fact, I'm going to highly suggest it. And even though there's a replay, most of us don't listen to the replay, let's be honest. So let's just actually, like, on that note, if you can put your computer on Do Not Disturb, I'm not going to check that you do this, but if you can put your computer on Do Not Disturb, you can put your phones on silent. You took the time to register for this. And so be here, like, allow this to be your first gift to yourself in recognizing that you're going to take steps to really put a ding in that gap that exists between your reality and that life that you want. So many times we sign up to be someplace, but then we're not actually there. And I just talked about this with, see, this would not have happened if somebody had put their phones on silent. Just saying, the universe. That's me going to Catholic school too. Like, anytime, like, I didn't do exactly what the nun said, like it was going to be highlighted. So that's kind of gift number one, is really, I just talked about this with self-care. And what I hear all the time is people say, oh, well, I went and got a pedicure. Yeah, but you got a pedicure and you sat there on your phone the entire time answering emails and texts and direct messages. And so how much of that did you really receive? So I'll give you spending time with your business therapist as self-care time for the next 45 minutes. And all I ask is that you really be here. Make eye contact with, the screen, and know that you're here as a gift to yourself, not just here to listen to me ramble for 45 minutes. You could do that on my YouTube channel if you wanted to, but you're here, you're present. And then you also get to use the chat to be able to ask your questions. Okay, random tangent. So I want to be able to share with you the steps. I'm back on my little outline that I made for you guys. So I just didn't ramble, which is exactly what I just did for you. I want you to be able to write down these steps: clarity, confidence, change, and consistency. And if somebody wants to type them in the chat, for those of us that have brain injuries and can't write that fast, that would be awesome. But clarity, confidence, change, and consistency. And my formula for change and consistency, so change plus consistency equals transformation. Thank you, Dr. Rose. So change plus consistency equals transformation. And that also equals compounding interest. And it has to be the right change, and it has to be the right consistency. So right now, you guys are doing stuff every single day consistently. And it might be, Courtney's going to yell at me for this example, at 8:30, you may sit down to watch The Crown, or, you grab your phone every 30 seconds to check social media. That's consistency, but it's not necessarily the right consistency or the right change. And so if you decide, I want to lose weight, and you're going to go on a diet, that's a change. And a better change would be, I'm going to be a healthy person. So change plus consistency equals transformation, and the compounding interest. In our lives, we make change, but we're not consistent about it. Or we do things consistently, but we don't align it with a change. And so the change plus consistency is what equals that real compounding interest. And I'm going to share with you 3 other hacks in a little bit about how to really accelerate and multiply that compounding interest. You guys are going to notice there's a ton of psychology, but there's a ton of business strategy. It's just in my DNA. And so I'm going to give you all of it that I can in this short period of time. So being able to, here's the thing that I'm going to share with you. You guys know, most of you know that I have multiple heart conditions. And so I remember hearing this quote from Picasso. Obviously, I didn't hear Picasso say it, but he said, only put off until tomorrow what you're willing to die having left undone. Pretty powerful, especially when you have multiple heart conditions. But that quote started really helping me change the perspective of my life, because being diagnosed as a teenager, most teenagers aren't thinking about dying or death or their legacy or their life. They're just thinking about today, which as they should, right? And so I remember, though, my first real transformation, I'll cry with you guys, my best friend was killed by a drunk driver when I was 16. And if we write down the steps in the clarity, confidence, change, and consistency, when I lost him, my clarity at the time, honestly, was alcohol was the devil and that life wasn't fair. Life sucked. I mean, literally, that was my clarity. I couldn't be more clear on the fact that alcohol was the devil and life sucked. My confidence was shot because I was extremely depressed. And the change that I chose was, instead of going on my senior trip to Europe and having a blast with my friends, I chose to isolate myself and go by myself to Ecuador and live in really poor conditions and volunteer in an orphanage. For those of you playing at home, I took 4 years of French in high school and sign language. So even though it's part of my heritage and my mom's really great at speaking Spanish, flying down to Ecuador and living in Ecuador, I didn't really speak a lick of Spanish. And my consistency was that every day I was surrounded by kids that had nothing. And yet they were happier than I was. And it was like, how is this happening? Right? Like, especially coming from the United States, where we put so much value on the tangibles in order to, our external represents how we feel internally. And these kids felt great internally. And so everything externally was okay because they had their health, they had their happiness. I mean, some of them didn't have their health, but they were so freaking happy. And I left the US in typical American fashion with 3 suitcases for a summer, right? For a teenager, for a summer. I left the US with 3 giant suitcases, and I came home with half of a backpack because one of the kids had slashed open my backpack and stolen my camera and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm smiling as I say this because I literally came back to the US with a CD and a smile. I gave everything else away, and I was so happy. I'd never been happier in my entire life. And that was my real first transformation. And it's not that I'm going to have you guys fly down to Ecuador and give all of your stuff away. That's not the secret to the Income and Impact Masterclass today. But it really is where I want to share with you this first real clarity, confidence, change, and consistency came from, is because I was in a place in my life where I could not see tomorrow. I could not imagine waking up another day without my best friend, but being able to kind of expand my perspective beyond my little life really helped me see what my life's value was. And my life's value wasn't decreased by the fact that my best friend wasn't here anymore. My life's value was actually increased by being able to have that interaction with him, and then being able to take those tools and take those memories and let them and allow them to impact the other parts of my life. And so sometimes income and value is not monetary. Sometimes it's creating that space for something bigger, something more valuable to take place. And I want you to think about a rubber band, right? Stretches and contracts. We're all pretty familiar with rubber bands, correct? Okay. So that stretching is uncomfortable. And yet you can't argue that there's not growth and literal expansion that happens in that growth. And you could choose to not stretch a rubber band, just like you could choose to not stretch yourself. And then how useful would you actually be? I have so many rubber bands sitting in my junk drawer that are not being stretched and not being used. And they're not very useful. They're just taking up space. And it is uncomfortable to stretch. We've all been there. And that uncomfortability oftentimes, let's be honest, sounds like, I can't do this. I don't have time for this. There's too much on my plate. That's what our stretching sounds like. So I want you to make note of that. What are your cues that your life is giving you when you're being stretched, when you're on a growth edge? And how can you lean into this as growth and expansion rather than just being uncomfortable? I don't know a female on the face of this planet who didn't experience uncomfortability when birthing a child. And yet it's something absolutely beautiful that comes into this world. And for the men on our, calls, think about it as muscles. And women, we build our muscles by tearing them down. And then the repair, the growth, the healing. As a therapist, the healing, I can tell you, is where the real transformation and the real opportunity lies. Not in the comfortability, unfortunately. And so many of you are probably like clicking off at this point. You're like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Staying where you are is uncomfortable too, because life is moving forward. Life is calling you to grow. You have a purpose in this life. It's on the other side. And so you staying where you are is kind of like when we're standing at the beach and the waves are going back into the ocean and it's pushing you back into the ocean. But you want to stay where you are and you're getting all that resistance and all that water against your legs. It's the difference between paddling out on a wave and riding a wave with the energy that the wave is giving you. And so you're being called. You wouldn't be here right now if you were not being called to something greater. And so how do you take those steps with clarity so that you can use this momentum and use this growth for something better rather than using the uncomfortability of staying where you are? And most people call it being stuck. And we all know people who are doing the exact same thing. They're consistently doing the exact same thing without change. And they're stuck and they're uncomfortable and they're unhappy and they complain. And they see busy and what they produce as their value rather than their impact. I used to think if I wasn't working, I wasn't making an impact. And I've worked with that belief in business and in my personal life to be able to, one of the most impactful things for my girls is when I write them a note and slide it into their lunch boxes. True story. I'm not there. It took me 10 seconds to write the note. And I don't think there's anything that makes my 10-year-old feel more loved than that note. And so these beliefs that we have, I have to be there. I have to be at the class, Cupcake Fest in order to really be a good mom. I have to be there one-on-one coaching every single person. Well, I can make a bigger impact by speaking to a stadium of 3,000 people. And then those people who are really moved to be able to work with them one-on-one. I can't coach 3,000 people a year. I'd be exhausted. You know how many I coach now? 4. And I truly show up and give them my all, my absolute everything. And that's how I make the bigger impact and add more value. And with more value comes more money, more wealth, more abundance, and you get to enjoy it. I remember working 100+ hours a week. And if you saw my Facebook post or my Instagram post, it was something that my coach had shared with me of, I was like, I'm working for my family. I'm doing this for my family. My coach is like, does your family know who's doing this for you? Is your tombstone going to say she did it for her family? They miss her. And I was like, oh, fair point. You can make an impact, make an income, and achieve your dreams. And in fact, you will make more income when you're making more impact. And it really does start with clarity. I promise you, it starts with clarity. And I am going to share with you those accelerators in just a second. So I told you that I was going to share all these secrets that I've learned, which are really not that secretive. It's just decades worth of personal and professional development work. And I was honest. I've invested over 6 figures in my personal and professional development. And I'll tell you, the people that were in the places of their lives that I thought I wanted to be, they'd invested 6 figures plus in their personal and professional development. And that's one of the accelerators that I'm going to share with you is when you're talking about investing $5,000, whatever the number is, $10,000 in your personal and professional development, and everybody around you is like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. How much money are you wasting right now not investing in yourself? I mean, I could put $5,000 in the stock market. I'm not going to get a better investment than investing on myself. I know, I've tried. And so when you're surrounding yourself, be careful with who you're choosing to surround yourself with. Because if they're naysayers, or if they're people that are not in that mindset that you are, in that growth, if they're people that are standing there in the waves and letting the waves suck them back in, I'm not sure that that's the right community. It's going to be really hard to stretch because they're all sitting there with their non-stretched rubber bands being like, this is okay. You're not here for okay. You're here for impact. You're here for legacy. So surround yourself with those kinds of people. And I thought it was absolutely insane to spend, I mean, as much as I went on a house on personal and professional development. And I remember being around people who were like, yeah, making $1 million is easy. It's simple. I was like, you're freaking insane. Guess what? Making $1 million is easy. It is pretty damn simple. I wrote down the figures for you. You guys could do this. $1 million is products or services, and you're each worth more than $1 million. So $1 million is a $10,000 product sold to 100 people. $1 million is a $5,000 product sold to 200 people. You know, $1 million is 10 $100,000 engagements. It's simple. But when you have this belief that it's $1 million, it is. And if I broke down everything that you've made since you started working to now, without the costs, I guarantee every single one of you has made $1 million plus. And being able to think about that, you know that your value is over $1 million. Do you see that? Like, do you guys understand that it's not some foreign concept? It's really easy and simple. And the people that make $1 million and keep it believe that. The people that believe that it's hard, they make $1 million and then they try to hold on to it and it slips away. I've seen it. I've coached it. And we have this belief that most of us have this belief that making money is hard. Making money is not hard. It's not. You go and you print it. That's it. Value. Value is not hard. What's hard is the clarity and the commitment to yourself. And it's only hard as long as you tell yourself it is. I used to have this belief because I'm parents. I'm the daughter and granddaughter of entrepreneurs. And my parents ran a service-based industry, a service-based company. And so I used to have this belief that making money is hard, or I have to show up to make money. And then this past week, actually, during COVID, we did a launch, and I was at the beach with my family. And we had the best launch that we've had in our company's history. We launched a book, and I wasn't involved. It wasn't hard. I was on the beach. I was adding the most amount of value that I could to my family at that time and my sanity. And when I used to micromanage, my team was unhappy. I was unhappy. I was getting in the way. But I'm lucky to be surrounded by people who make an impact and see the impact that we're making. And I guarantee you, you've made money and it's not been hard. And did you get a stimulus check? We all made $5,000. It may be hard next year, but that's a political conversation I'm not going into. but we all made thousands of dollars. It wasn't hard. We just opened our bank accounts. So you can really sit with and get clear. As long as you tell yourself making money is going to be hard, making $1 million is hard, you're crazy, Bunny. You're right. All of those things are true in your reality. And in my reality, it's not hard. In my reality, as long as I'm in line and clear on the impact that I'm making, money is just a consequence of my consistency, my confidence, my clarity, and me making changes. Hopefully you guys are getting that by now. And we're going to move into you being able to take some action, because I don't want this to just be another masterclass that you sit and spend the time with, and then you don't walk away with anything. I can promise you, if you stay with me, that's not going to be the case, because anybody who has spent any amount of time knows that I'm a huge fan of taking action and actually making it work and making an impact, not just talking about it. I want you to see it. That's why I keep asking you. So being able to, it's one of the reasons, and I'm going to break this down for you just so you can see it with DEFY. When I put the DEFY program together, I put it together using the things that worked for me. And being able to, hopefully today's the day that you're going to decide that you don't want to just listen to another masterclass, but today's the day that you're clear that you want to make a change. And being able to just write down the ways, I challenge you to do that. Write down the ways in which you can make $1 million, or in the ways in which you have made $1 million. And we talked about that clarity, the confidence, the change, and consistency. So I want you to write this down. Write down 3 things that will multiply your income today or hold you back. These are the 3 things that I'm going to share with you, and you probably have more. So 3 things that are going to multiply your income today. These are the 3 biggest things out of my 6 months that I want to share with you. Value your time and know the value of it, and honor the value of it. So this is going to sound funny, but in Richmond, when I was going to get my car serviced, I'd have to drive from my house, drop it off at the shop, wait for my car, and then drive it home. Well, I was coming in to record in the studio anyway, so I found a mechanic that would come pick up my car, service it, and bring it back for me. I would have never, ever thought about that unless I put a dollar value on my time and then thought about, this isn't worth my time to go and sit and wait for my car. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I didn't know that existed. When you start to value your time, opportunities show up. It's crazy. So what's the value on your time? Is it $100, $150, $300? You guys have that? You can type it in the chat if you want. What's the value of your time? Pick a number. So I'm going to put $1,000 for you. Kim's at 150. Everybody else is thinking. Dr. Rose is 1,000. Court's at 500. Okay. This is going to, are you guys ready for like a total mind F? I'm trying not to cuss. I'm doing a fairly good job at it. The next time you pick up your phone, think about this number while you're trolling through social media. You're paying all of those graphics, all those people, $500, $1,000, $160. Think about it the next time you're watching like Hoarders or The Crown. You just paid them that money. I mean, that is really, during your day, valuing your time. When people email you, Russ, this is what we talked about. When people email you, can we grab a coffee? Can we grab lunch? I'm the one person who emails back and is like, what's the itinerary? Like, what are we going to accomplish? I need that clarity. I hold space for that clarity so that I can value it. If it's a prospective client, or if it's lunch with my friend Russ to be able to make an impact on his life, that would be valuable. But if it's somebody that's going through, just their Rolodex to be able to be like, oh, well, who can I catch up with? Or, who can I go out to lunch with? Don't email me and say, let's grab a coffee. Like a coffee is not worth my time. I can grab coffee in the kitchen, but the impact, you guys have all heard of like value-based selling, serve, don't sell. When you message somebody with a direct message, like not just, hey, blah, 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 you get a response. I have a new program I want to tell you about. I really think it could help you in these ways because I was paying attention to what's going on in your life. You guys are here because this is some sort of value for you. Even if you didn't know exactly what the value was, there's a relationship and some relationship currency between you and I, and you trust me enough to show up. That's value. That's how much you're giving me just with your time and attention. And it's hopefully the value that you're going to get an ROI on. So when I show up for free, speaking, podcast, my expectation is to get an ROI on that value. And now, how does that happen as far as spending time with our kids? Well, let's be clear, your time and you are priceless. Your services, your products, those have a price tag on them. Those have a value. So that's really the perspective. That's number one. And I hope that every time you reach for your phone, you're going to be thinking about this now. Being like, oh, should I just Venmo Bunny as I'm trolling through her Instagram? I make some amazing reels, so they might be worth your time. I'm just saying. But being able to really think about that. So second, this is the second thing that really multiplied and compounded interest. Distractions. I know that I'm not the only person who has listened to an Audible book, gotten 10 miles down the road and been like, what the hell did they just say? And gone back. Distractions. Even when I'm coaching, I make sure, like I did when we started, shut off your distractions. You're here. Be here. When you're investing $50,000 in coaching, $100,000 in coaching, and you're divided your attention, you just lit a pile of money on fire. It's like when you do a launch and you don't tell anybody about it. Like, be where you are. Be intentional. Netflix, your phone, other people are all distractions. Like when I'm coaching and I'm like, hey, right now, I need this time to really be present with my clients. And it's not to say that my kids never bust in. I mean, they do. But being able to really get that value, and that also goes to self-care. And we talked about this earlier, but with making sure that you are fully present for what you're doing, because that hourly rate that you just put down there. So if you're at $1,000 an hour, but you're not giving me your full attention, or you're not giving that email list your full attention, or that script that you're writing, the content that you're creating, your full attention, you're devaluing that. And then people aren't seeing a $1,000 an hour brand. They're seeing a $10 an hour brand. You guys see that? So number one was the value of your time. Number two is distractions. Number three, if you haven't already guessed, is community. Who you're surrounding yourself with. This is a huge accelerator. Identify and get clear on your goals, and then surround yourself with people who are there or are also going there. It makes it so much easier because you're learning from them. This is why I love DEFY, is because you're in a group of people who are going through the same thing. And so you're able to accelerate exponentially. Imagine it this way. If I put $10,000 in and got 15% return on investment versus like with a real estate trust, I can invest in $1 million property with my same $10,000 and get a higher rate of return, because you're able to value that community, and it just accelerates it because you're able to use everybody else's experience and knowledge and wisdom and support. If you and I are going to go to the gym and I'm like, I can't come, there is a 68% chance that you're going to bail too. That's really the value of community. But if you know on a Wednesday evening that there is a group of 20 people, 15 people, 10 people, even 2 people. This is why I've invested so much money in masterminds, is because it doesn't necessarily make it easy, but it makes it easier. Because I know that there's going to be people in personal coaching and professional coaching. There's somebody holding you accountable. I'm not a miracle worker with my clients. All of my client successes are 100% their own. I just showed up and clicked on a link. But I gave them all of my experience and knowledge that I could at a time that it was meaningful. Could they get that by watching the hundreds of hours worth of YouTube videos that I have out there? Of course. But they're going to waste 100 hours to get to that 10 minutes of knowledge that I would have given them in individual coaching. So your 3 were the value of your time, distractions, and community. And so write down 3 people that you want to add to your herd right now. And I haven't yet done a horse analogy, so I'll spend 30 seconds on it. If I have an Arab horse, anybody who knows anything about horses, an Arab is most of the time hot-headed, energetic, high maintenance, and I add them to my quarter horse herd. Well, my quarter horses are not feeling pretty great about having to share their pasture with an Arab. So one of 2 things is going to happen. My quarter horses are going to start to act like Arabs, or my Arab is going to start to act like a quarter horse. And most of the time, the quarter horses rub off on the Arab, most of the time. And that's really the power of community. You surround, if you're, and I have no judgment, if your goal is to make $1 million this year, surround yourself with multimillionaires. It accelerates it exponentially. I cannot stress that enough. If you want to wake up at 5 a.m., hang out with people that wake up at 5 a.m. They'll tell you how easy it is. If you want to have a great love life, get a relationship coach. We don't really make investments without professionals, without, advisors. So really look at your community, and both professionally that you hire and that you surround yourself with. It's really, really important. And that goes back to the people in that community aren't going to say, hey, let's go grab coffee. So if you understand the framework that I shared with you, with how I designed DEFY, and I'm sharing this with you so that you can design your own life, whether or not DEFY, you want to know more about DEFY. But I want to share the framework with you because it's very important, as I did it systematically, and it's what I did for my own life. But there's tools, right? We can all access tools. We all have a million guides that we've downloaded and all of that. So there's tools, okay? So that's one thing. And there's clarity and the accountability, right? So the clarity is, what do I want to get done and why? Not just what do I want to get done, but what do I want to get done and why? And then the accountability, right? So to tell somebody where I want to make these changes and how I want to be consistent. Okay. And then there's individual coaching. So getting that individual support. And then there's peer support and group coaching. I do believe, and I could be wrong, but the hundreds of people who have gone through DEFY probably prove that correct, is that there is a magic in having a mixture of group and individual. So whether you do individual coaching on a consistent basis and you create your own group, there really is a mixture and a magic with that of group and not doing this all alone and not just having, yourself to contend with. And that's part of the community. And I just want you to imagine right now, whatever your intention was coming into this, I want you to imagine 6 months of this, 6 months of this medicine. Every single week, you're showing up. I want you to imagine the next 6 months. Okay. DEFY doesn't start till next year. So just imagine the next 6 months. Every week you're showing up, you're getting that support, you're being held accountable. And for the first time, you're not going to fall back into old habits. For the first time, you're not going to sign off this webinar, this masterclass. And you're not just going to jump right back into your email. You're actually going to show up for you and choose one thing that you're going to change and be consistent about it. What would be possible for those of you who have chosen to walk every day? How much do you transform your body, your mind, your emotions when you've chosen to walk and you've done it for 4, 5, 6 months? And then being able to be surrounded by that community, celebrating others and seeing they can do it. This is really great for your psychology and your mind, is when you get to celebrate others and you see that they can do it, your mind starts to agree that it's possible. And then you get to accelerate your results too. And it's seriously such a game changer. And that's why I do these group programs and masterminds for my own growth and my own personal and professional development. And that really does impact your confidence. And you make those changes because you're surrounded by great people and have great coaching and you have all the tools. And you don't need absolutely every tool. But studies say you do need consistency, because studies say that it takes 28 days to make a habit. And I'm going to disagree with that, because it took me about 4 months to really see the transformation until I had a consistent habit. I may have done the thing 28 days, and day 29, I expected to wake up and do it, but I wasn't committed to it. I wasn't consistent about it. I was just doing it to get to that 28 days. But once I really saw the results, it wasn't a habit. It was part of my identity. It was consistency. And that 3 months between the 28-day mark and seeing results, I needed accountability and that structure to stick with it. You know, holding that rubber band at full stretch for 4 months by myself was probably pretty exhausting. But when you can design a container for yourself, that's really where you start to see how simple it is to really make that impact and that income. You know, what if making $25,000 a month was as simple as being consistent, was as simple as a habit? Remember when we were like 12 and we got a 20 to go to the mall or go to the movies, and it was like so much money at that time, or go to Disneyland? And now it's like, you know, we spend $20 on that coffee. But that support and that consistency and that community is really what started in Ecuador. And now I look for it in my personal and professional journeys and my personal and professional development. I look for that community. I look for that support and that accountability. There's so many programs with so many great coaches that provide you with such great information. And humans need the support. We thrive in support and community and tribes and herds, and with that accountability. One other quote that I want you to take in: you have to be more in love with your future than you are with your past. Okay, you have to be more in love with your future than you are with your past. Today, you are telling yourself stories about what you can't do tomorrow based on yesterday. That's why I didn't give you that quote. That one's confusing. But today, you are telling yourself stories about what you can't do tomorrow based on yesterday. Well, tomorrow's not yesterday. And it's going to be really uncomfortable to continue to run that program on what you can and can't do based on your past. You don't fit in your past anymore. Otherwise, you would still be there. You're growing. So write down right now 4 or 5 beliefs and write them down with this structure. I can't. These beliefs are ones that you had coming in today. I can't make money unless I work hard. I can't do it all. I can't make $1 million. I can't get my to-do list done. I can't find clients. I can't quit my job. Okay. I can't. What are you telling yourself today? Okay. And now I want you to flip it. So you're going to change it to, I used to think that I was not able to, or I used to think that I couldn't. I used to think that I couldn't make $1 million. I used to think that I couldn't get my entire to-do list done. Wait till Bunny gets a hold of it and it's only 3 things now. True story. I used to think that I wasn't able to make an income and an impact. I used to think I wasn't able to make money and be a good mom. That's a true one for me. Okay. Make a lot of money and a lot of impact and be a good mom. And if you want extra fuel for this, then tie in the statement, and this is not mine, but tie in the statement of the truth is. That will directly press on your confidence button. So I used to think that I was not able to make a ton of money and be a great mom. The truth is, I make the most money when I'm on vacation. The truth is, I make the most money when I'm having fun. The truth is, I'm a great mom no matter how much money I make. I'm telling you, if you make a practice of just doing this, pretty soon your mind catches up to your dreams and accelerates the crap out of everything that you want. It's not magic. It's psychology and it's consistency. So type in the chat or raise your little Smurf hand if you know how to raise your little Smurf hand if you have anything for that, because I know this was drinking out of a fire hose. I'm fully aware that it was drinking out of a fire hose. And I appreciate all of you guys being here and cameras on and being attentive to all of this. First off, I'm just going to celebrate you for that. Like, I'm just going to give you guys kudos because I know all of you have super amazing lives. And so hopefully this was impactful for you. And I want to be able to answer any questions that you guys have if you want to type them in the chat. I also want you guys to know that my intention was never to be able to just speak at you for 45 minutes and then get off the call and you lose the momentum. So you're going to get an email later. And if you'd like, I'm going to give you another one-on-one time with me. Okay. Completely free for you, but you'll be able to really ask questions about this process. Bring something specific and you guys will have access to the link. There's a limited number of spots on my calendar, which most of you guys would understand that. And if you're like, you know what, I want to be able to have 6 months of acceleration, then ask me about that. It's all going to be there. So I also am putting together a pretty badass retreat at the end of this year, hopefully in person. That's not going to be just like the equine retreat. You guys have the equine retreat on November 6th if you want to come, but December 4th. So just, you could block that on your calendar to do a retreat where you basically will get the clarity. You can check off the clarity part and the community part. I'll bring the community, you bring the stuff, we'll work on the clarity together. I can give you 2 out of the 4. Hopefully, and I haven't told anybody this yet, but hopefully it's going to be at the beach. I'm talking to the Cavalier. So for those of you that know, it's a pretty schmancy hotel. We'll see if they allow bunnies. We'll see. But what questions, what thoughts do you guys have? Even, you know what, even sharing a takeaway, right? That'll help with the confidence aspect. If you just share a takeaway, you can put it in the chat. You can raise your little Smurf hand. I don't know what they're called. Call them a Smurf hand. Kim, what's your takeaway?
Takeaway is I'm definitely charging more per hour, bring a lot to the table.
You are definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Steph says being conscious of monetizing all of my time. And Steph, it's not just monetizing. Like, money is not on a pedestal. Impact, value is, right? If you just think about money as being the end all be all, then it skews the value because you are priceless. Like, your time and your presence is priceless. And this took me forever to, especially coming from being a therapist where it was like $120 an hour, to now. When I'm working with a client and they're investing in their coaching container, it's for an outcome, not for my time. In reality, I respond to texts, I respond to messages, I respond to Marco Polos. We have our session time. I'm thinking about them at 10 o'clock at night. I don't bill them an itemized thing for all of that. They're investing in an outcome. And so even breaking yourself away from the hourly mindset can be super, super valuable for your income and your impact. You know, because the other thing that I learned as a therapist is that if my client's going through a crisis, but it's $120 to call me, I do this with my lawyer all the time. Cause like an email is like, you know, I switched to a retainer model with my lawyer because I'm like, I don't want to get myself in jail because I'm worried about emailing you. So that would be a recommendation that I make for you guys is how can you look at it more of value and outcome versus hourly, right? Because we made up hours and we made up money. We used to trade seashells and goats. Like we made this up. So Sue said, I think saying the truth was such a powerful reminder. Dr. Rose says, do it, Bunny. Do it, Bunny is amazing. Thank you, love. Kim said, the truth is I make the most money when I'm having fun. I'm writing this on a sign and posting it on my wall. We can go get tattoos. Russ, you down for a tattoo? Steph said, that thought would help me keep from wasting my own time. I can read. I have a graduate degree. I swear to you, the more practical education that I get, like the more like going for my doctorate degree, there's stuff like 2 + 2 I won't be able to remember at some point. I think our brains have so much that's in there. Aligned action, creating my specific aligned actions, bunnyisms. All right, guys. Well, we are 1 minute over for my first ever masterclass. So I really wanted to break it up into like 6-minute segments for you guys, but I hope drinking from a water hose was valuable for you guys. Promise me you're going to check the email and be able to, if it serves you, like there's really 3 options here. You're going to grab a spot in DEFY next year because you just know after this class that you want to be able to have your accountability community that just all given to you. That's 1. 2 is you just want some more time in this space, and that would look like grabbing a spot on my calendar, right? And 3 is this has provided me so much clarity. I have so much energy to do this on my own right now, and I'm committed to just putting this together on my own. And I honor and welcome all of those. When the email comes shortly after this, and the replay is going to be there tonight, that's my pinky promise to you. It will be there tonight. But those 3 things are your options, and you can't choose a wrong option, right? Like your future is yours, so you can't make a wrong choice. I just want you to make sure that you're choosing something that ensures 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are not here this time next year, because the world needs you. You guys make the world a better place. That's why I named the company the way that I did, is because I know that my community, this is my legacy. You guys are my legacy. I can't throw 100 million starfish, but I can throw 10. You guys can throw 10, and you know how to do math. So being able to do that. So pick one of those 3 and promise me that you're going to open the email. And I just honor and celebrate you guys for being here and for making the world a better place. And I appreciate you. Bye.